Most of us walk every single day, but do we walk as well as we could? Do we even have a conception that we're attempting to put into action when we walk? Or do we just do it? We just walk. Today I'm going to give a concrete conception of how walking can be done that I think addresses the fundamental challenge that is posed by walking. But first, I want to address the answers I received to the question I posed, which was, how do you walk? The idea was to see if people had any real conception of how they perform the gesture of walking. I want to give a big thank you to everyone that responded. Your answers were highly interesting. There were a few answers that brought forth what the musculature was doing, whether that was the abdominal region engaging or activation of the glutes. While that's certainly a reasonable thing to notice in observing yourself walk, I don't think that's going to help us with a conception of how to perform the gesture. The musculature is involved, but it's too complex for us to consciously control. If we want to guide a movement, we're going to essentially be guiding the movements of the bones and bony structures. I expected 2 specific answers, and I did get those 2 answers repeatedly. I was pleased to see that because it shows that if you observe yourself, you can see what you're doing. You might be a bit of a mystery to yourself, but you can change that with some observation. So what are these 2 answers that I got? First, there was the answer that, in order to walk, the person bends the knee of one leg and allows it to swing forward. They catch themselves on that foot, bring their weight onto that foot, and then bend and swing the back leg. The second answer was that, in order to walk, the person leaned to one side, so they could either swing the opposite leg or rotate the hips to swing the opposite leg forward. The person then leans on that leg to swing the back leg forward. These are essentially the 2 common ways to walk. In reality, if you shift your weight to the side to walk, in most cases you will also bend your knee as you swing the leg. And really, if you bend your leg to swing it forward, you likely shift your weight to the side as well. But the shifting of weight side to side is more pronounced in some people, so they are more likely to see it that way. What these 2 answers point to is the basic conundrum of walking, which is this. If you're standing, your weight is pressing down on your legs, so you cannot just swing your leg forward to walk. You need to get the weight off your leg in order to be able to swing it. One way to deal with that problem is to bend your knee. When you bend your knee, you shorten the leg and essentially lift it, giving you the clearance you need to swing. The second way to deal with this problem is to shift your weight onto one leg, so that you free up the other leg to swing. This involves shortening on one side to lift up the other side. But what if I said you want to swing your leg without shortening your leg or tilting your pelvis to one side? Is that possible? Can you walk with straight legs and without tilting your pelvis and body side to side? At first, perhaps it doesn't seem possible. We just looked at the problem. You need clearance to swing your leg. How can you get that clearance without bending your leg? Bending the legs is certainly how walking is commonly described. That's genuinely how most people walk. And so when a scientist studies human locomotion, they observe that people walk with bent legs. The issue is that if your legs are bent, you will lack due tension in your legs, and your torso will end up bending in response as well. As a result, people will tend to bend and shorten themselves every time they walk. Even if they've made a big improvement to their posture while standing, when they go to walk, it all falls apart. As soon as the habitual process of walking takes over, lengthening turns to shortening. But today we'll create a new conception that can supplant your habitual way of walking. So now that I've put the problem into focus, I want you to try to figure out the conundrum. I want you to pause the video in a moment and really try to figure this out. Maybe you already have. It's a little obvious in a way, yet it's not an easy thing to guess. Is there some action that you can make that will allow you to be able to swing your leg without bending it, and without leaning the pelvis and the weight of the body from side to side? How can you swing your leg fully extended without leaning to the side? Give it some thought, then I'll come back with a hint if you haven't got it. Okay, the hint is this. If you're going to get clearance for the leg, you have to go up. Now obviously, keeping the torso upright and high, that is, not letting it droop down, is going to be necessary. But that's not the answer I'm looking for. There's a definite action that can make walking without bending the leg possible. Have you figured it out? I'll give one more hint in a second here. It's an action that is done essentially with your foot and ankle. If you haven't gotten it, don't fret. It's just some good fun to think about these things. The answer is this. If you want clearance in order to swing your leg while it's not bent, you need to go up on your toes. Now to be clear, I'm not saying go up on your toes like a ballerina. You only need a fraction of an inch of clearance in order to swing your leg. When I say go up on the toes, I essentially mean go up on the forefoot, slightly lifting the heels off the ground. Going up on the toes was one of F.M. Alexander's favorite activities to work with, and it makes sense as this action is fundamental to walking. The truth is, your average person can't stand on their toes very easily. They will feel the need to shove their midsection and the front of their pelvis very far forward to get their heels off the ground. If you can't prevent this shortening of the torso when you go up on your toes, even while just standing, you're definitely going to shorten your torso when you walk. I'm going to include a couple more crucial pieces for a basic conception of walking. But simply conceiving of walking as going up on your toes is, in my opinion, a game changer. You may think you already go up on your toes when you walk, but I'll explain in a moment why what I'm suggesting is something different. When you walk, you want to lead the movement with your torso. Your torso moves first and your legs catch up. Your torso is the heaviest object of the body. It's the primary mover, and it moves the slowest. If you get your leg out in front of your torso will not catch up, and you'll end up leaned back with your upper torso as you walk, which is quite common. You don't want to swing a leg out in front of you. To explain how we want to use the legs, I'm going to introduce the concept of the strong leg and the weak leg. This was an idea Delsarte used, and it's very straightforward. The strong leg is defined as the leg that is in line with the front of the torso. When you're standing, the front of the body should be in line with the instep, which is on the talus bone at the front of the ankle. If a leg is back or forward, it's called the weak leg. When you walk, you want to go up on your toes a small amount. Then you move your torso forward. You have clearance to swing one leg with your torso, and that leg will become the strong leg under your torso. Your foot will not land out in front of you. It will land right under you. Then you go up on the toes of that strong leg, a small amount, and you will have the clearance you need to swing your back leg forward to become your next strong leg. For most, this will cause you to take shorter steps than usual. We can see here that we want to go up on the toes of the front foot, which is something that is not present in the common conception of walking. In the common conception, you end up on the toes of your back foot, but you haven't really gone up on the toes, and you certainly haven't gone up on the toes of the front foot. This is a major difference. Another difference is that the new conception of walking requires a significant extension of the hip joint. Remember, extension of the hip joint is when you increase the distance between the front of the thigh and the point we call the iliac. Flexion is when the thigh comes towards the iliac. If you keep your pelvis upright, so that means you keep your iliacs back and up as you walk in the new way, your back leg is going to have to massively extend. Most people are not used to that. Even when they're standing, they don't extend their hip joint as much as they could. We can see the dropping down and forward of the iliac. So you're going to have to make it your intention to really extend the hip joint as you walk. You can't cut it short. Getting that amount of extension will be a challenge for most people at first. And really, there will be many challenges. Walking is highly habitual for most people. We've walked the way we walk for decades. Changing that is not easy, but I do think this conception can immediately be put to work. As you're walking, you can say, I'm not walking. I'm going up on my toes, moving my torso forward, and allowing one leg to swing to become my strong leg. Then I'm going up on the toes of my strong leg, and letting my back leg swing to become my next strong leg. This idea that you're not doing what you think of as walking, but you're doing this other specific gesture, can help break you out of your habitual pattern of walking. Whether you agree with this conception or not, I think you must see that it is in fact a conception. It's an idea you can genuinely understand and attempt to put into practice. It's a clear picture of how walking could be done. I encourage you to examine other people's answers on how to walk. Do they give you a clear conception like this? Or is what they say pretty vague? I really encourage you to go search for what others say is the right way to walk. See how their answers compare. Lastly, I must say there is still a lot to learn. There are many specific directions we can use to help ourselves perform this gesture of walking. I will be doing a series on walking very soon. Like my other series, we will go in depth on the many details and nuances that are relevant. But I think what I've given you today is a fantastic starting point. Walking with unbent legs and an unbent torso requires that we go up on our toes, that is, lift the heels off the ground a small amount, and move the torso forward, allowing one leg to swing forward to catch up and become our strong leg. Then we go up on the toes of the strong leg to swing the back leg forward to catch up and become our next strong leg. An interesting thing to work with if you're looking to change how you walk is to see, can you go up on your toes without thrusting your midsection and pelvis very far forward? If you're wondering where this conception of walking came from, what I've presented today is my understanding of Jeando Masoero's model of walking. While Masoero is heavily influenced by F.M. Alexander and Francois Delsarte, it's Masoero's intrepid and brilliant work that built this idea. Thanks for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Questions and criticisms are, of course, welcome. If you're looking to dive into this world of posture, check out the other videos on my channel. Or, if you want someone to personally help you, I do offer lessons done one-on-one over Zoom. In the lessons, you will record yourself through Zoom, and you will see how you perform various gestures, including walking. As you learn directions and concepts that you can put into action, you will change how you perform those gestures. When you watch the video back, you will see yourself change for the better right in front of your own eyes. For more information, visit my website, mechanicsofpoise.com, or send me an email at delsartelessons@protonmail.com.